I still remember the first time she mentioned the word divorce. It was an offhand comment, maybe in the heat of an argument about something so insignificant that I don't even remember the details. She had said it, though, and I remember the way it hit me. I felt as if the wind had been knocked out of my chest. Divorce. Such a heavy word. It carried more weight than anything we had ever spoken of before. I thought it was just a slip of the tongue at first. After all, we were both frustrated, saying things we didn't mean. We were like that sometimes, volatile, passionate in every sense of the word. But still, we always found our way back to each other, didn't we? That's what I kept telling myself. The first time, it scared me, but the second time, I felt a pang of annoyance. We were arguing again at this time about money, of course, and how we never seemed to have enough of it. I made some comment, something that was probably a bit snarky, and there it was again. Maybe we should just get a divorce. This time, I stared at her. I could feel the irritation bubbling up, but I pushed it down. Come on, you don't mean that, I had said. We'll figure it out, just like we always do. But she didn't apologize. She didn't say that she didn't mean it. She just looked at me, her face set in that way it gets when she's too proud to back down. That was the moment when the word divorce stopped feeling like a threat and started feeling like a possibility. The months passed, and the word began to creep into our arguments more frequently. Sometimes she would throw it out there, almost casually, as if she was testing me to see how I'd react. Other times, she would say it with a cold, detached voice, as though it was a foregone conclusion. Each time she said it, it hurt a little less, but it also hurt a little more, if that makes sense. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what was happening to us. Were we really falling apart, or was this just a phase? Could we find a way to fix things, or was she slowly pushing me away, hoping that eventually, I'd be the one to call it quits? I wasn't perfect, I know that. I had my faults. Plenty of them. I worked long hours, maybe too long, but I was doing it for us, wasn't I? Trying to make ends meet, trying to give us a better life. I didn't see the harm in it, but every time I stayed late at the office, every time I missed dinner, I could feel her resentment growing. I tried to make it up to her. I'd buy flowers, plan date nights, take her out to fancy restaurants, but nothing seemed to work. It was like there was a wall between us. And no matter what I did, I couldn't break through it. Then came the fights about kids. We had talked about having children before we got married. We had agreed that we wanted them, eventually, but eventually kept getting pushed back. First, it was because we needed to save more money. Then it was because we needed a bigger house. Then it was because we needed more time together, just the two of us. But in every argument, she would bring it up. Maybe if we had kids, things would be different. She'd say, maybe if we started a family, we wouldn't be so miserable all the time. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't sure if I was ready to be a father. I wasn't sure if having a child would fix anything or if it would just make things worse. And she knew that. She knew I had doubts, and she hated me for it. The word divorce came up more and more. It was always hanging there, between us, like a ticking time bomb. I started to feel like I was walking on eggshells all the time, afraid that one wrong move would set her off again. Every argument, no matter how small, seemed to end with her threatening to leave me. Eventually, I got tired of fighting. I got tired of trying to prove myself, tired of bending over backward to make her happy, only to be met with more anger, more disappointment. I started to pull away. It wasn't intentional. At first, it was just self-preservation. I didn't want to feel hurt anymore, so I built my own wall, just like the one she had built between us. She noticed, of course. She always noticed, and that only made things worse. She'd accuse me of not caring, of giving up, and I guess, in a way, she was right. I was giving up, but I didn't want to admit it to myself, much less to her. The last fight we had, the one that ended everything, was about something stupid. I don't even remember what it was. Maybe it was about the dishes. Maybe it was about me coming home late, again. It doesn't matter. What matters is that she said it again, that word I had come to hate, divorce. Only this time, instead of arguing, instead of trying to convince her that we could work things out, I just nodded. I looked her in the eyes, and I said, okay. She stared at me, shocked. I don't think she expected me to agree. I think she had gotten so used to the back and forth, to the routine of fighting and making up, that she didn't know what to do when I finally gave in. "You want a divorce?" I said. "Fine, let's get a divorce." For a moment, she didn't say anything. She just stood there, her mouth slightly open, her eyes wide. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. I packed a bag that night. I didn't take much, just enough clothes to get by for a few days. I didn't want to drag it out. I didn't want to prolong the inevitable. As I packed, she sat on the couch, silent, watching me with a blank expression. I didn't know what she was thinking, and at that point, I didn't care. When I left the house, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I should have felt sad, I suppose. I should have felt something. But all I felt was relief. The constant tension, the arguments, the threats, they were all gone. I stayed in a motel that night. It wasn't much, but it was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in what felt like forever, I slept through the night. The next few days were a blur. I found a small apartment, something temporary until we figured out the legal stuff. We hadn't talked about the details yet, who would get what, how we would divide the finances. But that didn't matter to me. I didn't care about the house or the furniture. I just wanted out. She called me a few times, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to talk to her. I wasn't sure what I would say. Part of me wondered if she would change her mind, if she would call and beg me to come back, but she never did. A week passed, and then another. I started to settle into my new life, my new routine. I went to work, came home, ate dinner alone. It was lonely, sure, but it was also peaceful. There were no fights, no threats, no tension, just quiet. I thought about her sometimes. I wondered if she was okay, if she missed me. But I didn't reach out. I figured if she wanted to talk, she would call. But the days turned into weeks, and she never did. Eventually, the papers came. She had filed for divorce. It was real now, official. I stared at the envelope for a long time before I opened it. Even though I had agreed to it, even though I had been the one to walk away, seeing it in writing, in black and white, hit me harder than I expected. I signed the papers without hesitation. There was nothing to fight over, nothing to negotiate. We didn't have kids, and I didn't care about the house or the money. I just wanted it to be over. When I sent the papers back, I felt a strange sense of finality. This was it. We were done. I wondered if she felt the same way.